been saying it for over a year now. I believe in Shedeur Sanders, not just as a solid quarterback, but as the best prospect in all of college football. In fact, I thought he should have gone #1 in this year's NFL draft. But he didn't. Not because of his skill set. Not because he lacks leadership or intelligence. No, he fell because the NFL isn't ready to fully embrace the Deion Sanders effect. Call it politics, call it ego, call it institutional pride, but let's be honest. The NFL sending Shedeur all the way to the 5th round after everything he's done? That wasn't just a miss. That was a message. The Cleveland Browns took him after drafting Dillon Gabriel. Let that sink in. And yet, here we are. Fast forward a few weeks, and Shedeur's name is suddenly back on every scout's radar. Why? Because what happened last week at a private workout in Miami has teams questioning everything. This wasn't some media-hyped combine. There were no cameras, no crowds, just real football minds watching raw talent put on a clinic. If they didn't believe before, they're starting to now. It wasn't publicized. It wasn't promoted. But the private Miami workout Shedeur Sanders held last week may have been the most important moment of his football career to date. No cameras, no influencers, just a quiet field outside of Miami, a handful of NFL decision-makers, and a quarterback with something to prove. Among those in attendance, at least 3 NFL GMs, a couple of top-tier quarterback coaches, and more than one team that had previously passed on him in the draft. What they witnessed wasn't just a strong arm or clean mechanics. It was complete command. Shedeur was ripping NFL-level throws to every quadrant of the field, manipulating safeties with his eyes, and dropping dimes on deep outs and timing routes with jaw-dropping consistency. According to a scout present, he looked like a 5-year NFL vet. The way he processed, the pace, the poise, it was special. There's something different about a private setting. Without the media circus or the pressure of performance in front of crowds, you see what a quarterback truly is. And in Miami, they didn't just see Shedeur's talent. They saw his control, his confidence, and most importantly, his ceiling. The Florida heat was thick, even in the early morning. A slight breeze carried the scent of salt from the nearby coast, but the field remained still, calm before the storm. A handful of black SUVs lined the edge of the turf. No media, no noise, just a select few insiders sitting quietly on folding chairs, clipboards in hand, eyes trained on one man. Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field in silence, wearing a plain black compression shirt, his signature calm in full effect. No entourage, just him, his receiver, and the ball. The energy was electric, but not chaotic. It was the kind of quiet you feel when something big is about to happen. He started with short throws, snaps from under center, footwork drills. Nothing flashy, just clean, surgical execution. But every rep built tension. Each throw hinted at a deeper level of control, a readiness that couldn't be faked. By the time he moved into deep balls and NFL route concepts, the group of observers had leaned in. Phones were out, not for recording, but for texting front offices. Something was happening on that field. This wasn't just a quarterback throwing in July. This was a statement. The first real test came when Shedeur moved into the precision passing drills, what scouts often call the truth drills. No flash, no scrambling, just you, a receiver, and a tight window. The setup was simple. 5 throws, 5 different spots, one receiver running a crisp route tree. Comeback, dig, out, slant, deep curl. Each route demanded perfect timing and anticipation. But what made it special wasn't the routes, it was how Shedeur threw them. There was no wasted motion in his release. Each ball left his hand with a snap, tight spiral, and perfect placement. Not just catchable, ideal. On the comeback, he threw it before the break. On the dig, he led the receiver into open space without slowing him down. And on the slant, It was placed low and away, safe from a lurking linebacker, but still easy to snag in stride. Every throw was intentional. He wasn't showing off arm strength. He was displaying mastery of timing, touch, and trust. One of the scouts murmured, "He's already playing at tempo." That's not something you say. Shedeur stood alone at midfield. The trainer barked situations like a defensive coordinator on caffeine. 1:42 left, down 4, no timeouts. He called the plays at the line, gesturing receivers into position with subtle hand signals, like a quarterback who's done this 1,000 times under pressure. Every drop back had urgency, but never panic. Every throw was deliberate, but quick. The footwork stayed sharp. The throws remained crisp, but it was the processing that turned heads. He hit a back on a check down when the deep cross was blanketed. Decision made in under 2 seconds. He moved defenders with his eyes on a seam route that opened the middle for a perfect strike. Then, as the clock ticked under 20 seconds, he sprinted to the line, signaled a spike, and instead fired a quick slant for the score. Game awareness, instincts, deception, all in one rep. One scout scribbled something in his notepad and leaned back, nodding slowly. Shedeur wasn't just showing skills. He was showing control. In a pressure simulation, he looked like the calmest man in the room. The final challenge was raw, uncomfortable, and revealing. No clean pockets, no friendly shadows. This was a stress test. They surrounded Shedeur with collapsing cones and live rushers, forcing him to maneuver in a shrinking world. The drill mimicked chaotic NFL pockets, interior pressure, edge threats, and delayed blitz looks. The goal wasn't just to survive, but to thrive within chaos. He didn't flinch. Shedeur's feet danced, but never panicked. He slid left, reset, and zipped a dig route across his body. He stepped up through pressure, keeping both hands on the ball, textbook movement. One rep saw a rusher flash right into his lap. Shedeur calmly pump-faked, froze the defender for half a beat, then tucked and sprinted out with purpose, not retreating, recalibrating. This wasn't schoolyard scramble, it was structured improvisation. You could see the internal clock ticking in sync with his eyes, always downfield, always calculating. Even in drills where most guys just try to escape, Shedeur kept playing quarterback. When the whistle blew, a silence hung in the air. One NFL assistant finally broke it. That'll translate on Sundays. Because pocket presence can't be faked. It's either in you or it isn't. And Shedeur, he wore it like armor. By the time the workout shifted to full team simulations, the energy had shifted. This wasn't about individual drills anymore. It was about ownership. Could Shedeur command an offense, orchestrate chaos, and elevate everyone around him? They lined up in mock 11-on-11s with rotating receivers, full play calls, and defensive adjustments. No cue cards, no safety net. It was up to Shedeur to process the looks, adjust protection, shift the route concepts, and execute, all in real time. He didn't just run the plays. He ran the session. Check, check, kill, kill. His voice echoed, authoritative, confident. Line slides, motion adjustments, sight reads. He knew exactly where to go with the ball before the snap, and proved it after. One play, he audibled to a slot fade after seeing a linebacker shade too far inside. Touchdown. Another, he called out the safety rotation before it happened, hitting a seam right behind it. But what truly turned heads? His command. Not just of the offense, but of the room. He corrected a receiver's split, encouraged a dropped pass, owned a misread. Coaches didn't see a college kid, they saw a field general. And field generals don't wait to be told. They take the huddle and make it theirs. Beyond the throws and footwork, what impressed most wasn't physical, it was cerebral. Shedeur Sanders displayed a football IQ that some veteran pros still chase. In the middle of drills, he dissected coverages like a coordinator, diagnosing disguises and bait techniques in real time. Between reps, he asked questions coaches should ask. Was that trap 2 or quarters match? You see the edge walk down late on the strong side? That's hot. His mental processing wasn't just fast, it was layered. He wasn't reacting, he was anticipating. Leadership? That wasn't a question, it was an answer. Shedeur didn't bark orders, he inspired alignment. A receiver ran a lazy out route. He didn't scold, he pulled him aside, broke down the leverage, and ran it again. Crisper, sharper, complete. Veteran pros and trainers noticed it. "You can't coach that," one murmured. "That's franchise behavior." Shedeur led without needing permission. In between reps, he orchestrated conversations about coverage tendencies. During water breaks, he broke down concepts. He treated the session like a film room on grass. Leadership and IQ don't show up on combine charts, but every GM in that building saw it. Not just a quarterback, a CEO in cleats. The workout didn't end when the cleats came off. It only began to echo louder. Within hours, snippets of Shedeur's Miami session rippled across front offices. Text threads lit up between scouts, execs, and coordinators. "Did you see that drive throw? That was Mahomes-level pocket manipulation. This kid's different." By morning, the buzz became tangible. Multiple teams quietly requested private meetings. Not just the quarterback-needy franchises, everyone. Coaches wanted to understand the mental makeup. GMs wanted character profiles. Onis asked, "Could he be our guy?" Several scouts who had previously placed Shedeur in the late first or early second round began reshuffling their boards. One AFC evaluator said bluntly, "He jumped 2 spots on our board today. That wasn't just talent, that was command." Even veteran QBs in the league took notice. One Pro Bowler reposted a clip with a caption, "He ready." The reaction wasn't hype, it was recalibration. Shedeur Sanders wasn't entering the NFL as a prospect anymore. He was entering as a presence. Miami wasn't just a workout, it was a declaration. And the league heard it, loud and clear. When asked about the now viral Miami workout, Deion Sanders didn't flinch. He didn't gloat either. Instead, Coach Prime leaned back, flashed that familiar smile, and delivered a response that blended pride, truth, and challenge. "I'm not surprised," he said calmly. "Y'all are just catching up." Deion had been preaching Shedeur's greatness long before the NFL scouts arrived. To him, this wasn't an overnight transformation. It was years of discipline, quiet hours of film study, and a hunger most quarterbacks never show. "That's what happens when you raise a quarterback in the fire," he added. "He's been built for this." But he didn't let the moment inflate into complacency. "I told Shedeur, don't let this be your peak. This ain't the mountaintop. It's just the climb. You want to lead a franchise? You better stack days like that workout. Every day." For Deion, the Miami session wasn't vindication. It was confirmation. Confirmation that the blueprint he'd helped design was working. That his son, his quarterback, wasn't just carrying a name. He was carrying a standard. And in true Prime fashion, he closed with a message to the league. "Y'all better be ready, because he is." Shedeur Sanders' Miami workout wasn't just a showcase of individual brilliance. It may have signaled a fundamental shift in how quarterbacks are developed, evaluated, and respected. This wasn't a polished prospect from a blue blood Power 5 school. This was a QB who started at Jackson State, led with poise at Colorado, and trained with his father, outside of traditional pipelines. And yet, NFL eyes were fixated. It raised real questions. Is the old model, the QB factories, the blue chip pedigree, the media anointing, starting to fracture? Can raw talent, elite preparation, and football IQ rise from anywhere? Especially under leaders who think differently. Shedeur's command in that workout, his decisiveness, and ability to operate a pro-style offense at that speed challenged the notion that greatness needs the SEC logo stamped on it. He represented a new prototype, a quarterback molded by culture, pressure, and purpose, not just pedigree. As scouts and analysts rewatched the film, some began to whisper, are we watching the first superstar of the new QB era? The answer remains unwritten, but one thing is clear. This workout wasn't just about one day in Miami. It might be remembered as the spark that lit a new path forward. Shedeur Sanders' Miami workout was more than just a display of elite quarterback skills. It was a moment that challenged deeply rooted assumptions in football culture. It forced the NFL world to reconsider what readiness, poise, and leadership look like in a young QB. He didn't need a national title to show he could lead a team. He didn't need blue blood pedigree to prove he belonged. What he needed and delivered was an opportunity to be seen on his terms. This wasn't hype. This was real. With Deion Sanders in his corner and the scrutiny of the football world bearing down, Shedeur stepped into the fire and didn't blink. His performance didn't just elevate his draft stock, it reignited the conversation around how quarterbacks are made, how they're measured, and who gets a seat at the table. Now, the question isn't just about Shedeur, it's about the system. So, we ask you, are we witnessing a changing of the guard? Can Shedeur Sanders redefine what it means to be a franchise quarterback? Or will the old guard push back harder than ever? Let us know your thoughts. The future might just be unfolding in front of us.